My name is Eric Zimmerman, and I have worked in the game industry for about 14 years. I'm a game designer. I run a company in New York City called Gamelab. Gamelab makes games that are played online. Some are single player, some are multiplayer, some are educational, most are for entertainment, some are for children, most are for adults. We're known for doing innovative work. We're a very creatively driven company, and we have a lot of fun at what we do. My background is actually as an artist. I was trained as an artist and eventually found my way into games. My transition from being an artist to becoming a game designer was really in thinking about forms of culture that when I was coming out of graduate school, maybe 15 years ago, I saw the potential for really radically new forms of culture. And video games really struck me as a kind of culture where I saw things happening, the emergence of 3D graphics, the beginnings of multiplayer online games, people really inventing whole new ways to interact with computer devices that were really reinventing what games could be from year to year. And I didn't see that in traditional art making forms, and that's initially what drew me to becoming a game designer. I should also say, however, that my whole life I've really enjoyed making games, not just playing them, but designing them. I'm one of two co-founders of Gamelab. The other one is Peter Lee, and Peter and I co-founded the company in 2000. Gamelab creates games that are relatively small in scale. We're not making large 3D games for the Sony PlayStation or the Microsoft Xbox. Our games are played online or they're downloaded from the internet. Probably the most well-known game that we've created is called Diner Dash, which is about waiting tables in a restaurant. And that's typical of our work in the sense that we like creating games that take on unusual subject matters. Two of our most recent games, one called Mismanagement was about office politics, and another one called JoJo's Fashion Show is about being a fashion designer and really about the aesthetics of fashion. So we like taking on subject matters and gameplay and aesthetics and content that's not normally found in games. On the one hand, we do small scale games because that does allow us to explore unusual subject matters, and we're a very innovation-driven, creatively driven company. So yes, I'm happy making games about things that are not traditional game content like killing dragons and shooting aliens. I love those games. I'm a gamer myself, but enough people are making games like that I feel like there's space to do other things. On the other hand, we are a commercial studio, and nobody ever invested in Gamelab. We are an independent company, which means that our games need to earn money for the company or else the company will evaporate. So it's not really like, I wouldn't say we're like an artist studio just making personal work. In fact, it's very much a collaborative kind of process that we have. So I don't think of myself as an artist who then has a team of people that implements my vision. Instead, it's a very collaborative group process by which concepts are generated and the company ends up making games. And in that sense, it's more of a commercial design studio than an artist studio. I first studied painting. I have a degree in painting, and my master's degree is in art and technology. So I had already started that transition to game design as an artist. We've remained independent, so we haven't worked with venture capitalists in the sense that no one's invested in part of our company and owns part of our company. The financing that we have done is based on the film industry, where the investment is in a project instead of in the company. So we actually have done a number of games where investors invested in an individual game, which is difficult to find people who want to do that kind of investment, but for us it's worked very well. Some of our project-based investors are individuals, private investors. Others are companies that are production companies. We partnered with an animation company. We also have partnered with publishers, game publishers, and instead of them financing the entire project, we co-finance it with them. So we've really tried many things. I mean, our goal is to make great games and innovative games and to have a successful company, and we're always looking for new angles. We also, there's here in Canada, there's a lot of government funding for doing games, for doing innovative new media, entrepreneurship. There's very little of that in the United States, but we have found some grant-based funding as well. We recently received a major grant from the MacArthur Foundation, which is a major American philanthropic organization, for a project that we're working on. I think that there is a West Coast sensibility in games that is, I don't know, maybe more traditional. I mean, the game companies in New York City are quite small. My company has 25 people, and we're the second largest game development studio, whereas many game companies in Montreal have hundreds or even thousands of people working for them. So we try and keep it small, and hopefully that allows us to do more experimental work. But I also think that the game industry is not yet as diverse as the film industry in terms of the kinds of people making film, the kinds of films that are made, the kind of people watching films. It's getting better in games, but I still look at other forms of popular culture like film and music, and I see a much more diverse cultural ecosystem that helps support the creation of innovation in those cultural fields that games are still struggling to achieve. There's a cultural stigma around play as being the subject matter for serious subjects. There is the fact that games grew out of a technical culture, and so there's a kind of geekiness associated with games, that games are made by and for gamers. There is also the problems of production scope, the fact that games and game platforms, the technical platforms, are constantly evolving, means that you can't just play any game that was made at any time. If you have a digital collection of music, in your collection is music that was maybe made and recorded in the last 100 years. You can't play a game that was made more than a few years ago. The platform may not exist anymore. So there's many reasons why games are struggling to be as, I think, culturally sophisticated as other forms of popular media. Again, there's economic reasons, cultural reasons, design reasons, technological reasons, but it's also why it's exciting to be working in games now, because there are many unanswered questions that we answer by making games.